A nearly 5-year drama came to an end on Friday after a jury found Michelle Troconis guilty. She was convicted on all counts, including conspiring to kill Connecticut mother of 5 Jennifer Dulos. The trial may be over, but many questions still linger. To help walk us through this trial and what is next is CBS 2 reporter Tony Aiello, who not only covered every phase of the trial, but has been on the story since Jennifer's disappearance in 2019. Tony, thank you for taking some time to talk to us this morning.
Good morning, Mary.
And Tony, take us back to Friday and give us a sense of what the day was like in the courtroom, not just for Michelle Troconis, but the families involved.
Mary, I think there was a strong sense of anticipation and expectation that Friday would be verdict day. And really that's based on kind of a legal point and also an anecdotal point. Legally, the day before, the jury had asked a very specific question about the fine point of a Connecticut law, and that kind of indicated they were working their way through the charges and making real progress. Anecdotally, many lawyers will tell you juries that begin deliberating on a Monday or a Tuesday often return verdicts on Friday, and that's exactly what happened in this case. Michelle's family was very upset. Jennifer's loved ones who were in the courtroom looked, I won't say happy, but they certainly looked relieved. And Michelle Troconis was extremely emotional as that word guilty rang out. She put her hand to her mouth. Another couple of verdicts of guilty. She put her head on her lawyer's shoulder. And then that final guilty for hindering prosecution, she dropped down into her chair and she put her head on the table. Very emotional moment for her.
You've been covering the case since 2019. Was there anything new that came out during the trial that we didn't know before?
You know, that's a good question because the arrest warrants in this case were extraordinarily detailed. They really laid out a lot of the evidence. But at trial, there were a couple of things that we hadn't heard much, if anything, about before. We heard testimony that Michelle Troconis had used disparaging, even hateful language about Jennifer Farber Dulos right before Dulos disappeared on May 24th of 2019. For the first time, we heard evidence that Michelle Troconis set some fires at the mansion that she shared with Fotis Dulos in Farmington, Connecticut. One of the multiple fireplaces you could see on this spring day smoke coming out of the chimney. And the prosecution strongly argued that Michelle Troconis was disposing of evidence by setting a fire in the fireplace. And then there was a mystery that was brought up by the defense during their presentation. On the day that Jennifer disappeared, her phone apparently connected via Bluetooth with her car, which was abandoned. And this happened late in the afternoon when presumably she was already deceased and Fotis Dulos was already back in Farmington at his home with Michelle Troconis. So that Bluetooth connection remains a mystery still to be solved.
As you've reported, Jennifer's body was never found. What is next for investigators on this case?
So right after the verdict, I talked to one of the lead investigators who literally worked this case every day for 5 years. He told me we will never give up searching for Jennifer Farber Dulos's body. And in its statement after the verdict, the family and friends of Jennifer Farber Dulos said, many questions remain as we approach the 5-year marker. It is our hope that the resurgent public interest in this case might spur new viable leads that could help police find Jennifer's body, and perhaps even leads that might point to involvement by other individuals unknown at this point.
You know, it's hard not to think about her 5 young children who lost their mom and their father to suicide. Did anyone in her family speak to you after the verdict? Did they feel justice was served here?
Mary, again, they put out a statement. The nanny who has cared for the 5 Dulos children for many, many years and is like a mom to them now, she was in the courtroom for the verdict. She smiled as she left the courtroom, and then a few minutes later, the statement came out where the family said, quote, today's verdict is a crucial attribution of accountability, not a victory. There can be no victory when 5 children are growing up without their mother. That's a strong indication just of the depth of pain that they continue to feel. And you're exactly right. It's hard not to think about these 5 kids, their mom murdered apparently by their dad, and then the dad dead by suicide. They're in the care of their grandmother now.
The verdict was reached. The trial is over, but the legal process certainly continues. What happens next from here? What are you expecting to see?
Yes, the verdict ended the trial, but it certainly didn't end the legal proceedings. So there will be motions filed, maybe even before the week is out, to set aside the verdict. That's kind of pro forma, and it's a prelude to an appeal. Sources tell me Michelle Troconis' family has definitely settled on an appeal. They will probably hire a different lawyer to handle that. That's not a comment on the lawyer who handled her case at trial. Families and people who are convicted often find new legal counsel for the appeals process. That appeals process could drag out for years. One of the key points during an appeal will be this confidential report, custody report, that had been prepared right before Jennifer Farber Dulos disappeared. The defense feels that report was favorable to Fotis Dulos and kind of minimized any motive for Michelle Troconis to want to be involved in a murder of Jennifer Farber Dulos. That was not allowed at trial. That could be a point of appeal. And finally, Mary, that confidential report is also part of the next legal proceeding. Michelle Troconis showed that on her laptop during the trial, and for that she's been charged with contempt of court. That hearing's on March 21st.
All right, Tony Aiello, we thank you very much. And you can find all of Tony's reportings on the Michelle Troconis trial on our website at cbsnewyork.com.